Hi, everybody. We'll get started. Welcome to the Pennacook Village Association's annual meeting. I'm Brent Todd. I'm president of the Pennacook Village Association, and it's wonderful to see all of you here live and in person, finally. I thank you very much for coming out tonight. It is great to be able to start getting back to a normal, which we hope we will be able to continue. So everybody keep your fingers crossed about that. I just want to recognize a couple of folks in the audience tonight. We have Councilor Champlin here, and Lori and David Rossio are here from Interchange Development, who are working on the Merchants Way project, everybody's favorite new supermarket that's going to be coming. Thank you all also to all of the PVA board members that I see here tonight. If you could just raise your hands. Board members, thank you very much for your service, and to the Pennacook Village Association, appreciate it. Thank you. Also want to thank the Merrimack Valley School District for allowing us to use this space tonight. We very much enjoy and appreciate their support and our partnership with them. And also thank you, of course, to Concord TV for recording the event tonight, which you will all get to see again and again if you want to. And certainly great for those folks that aren't able to make it tonight, so they'll be able to watch it as well. So just a quick agenda overview. I'm just going to spend a few minutes doing a little bit of PVA business. Talk about PVA just quickly. We are going to vote in some new board members, and then we're going to turn the show over to our special guest tonight, Matt Walsh. So that'll be momentarily. So first, I think that it's pretty easy to say that the PVA and a lot of other organizations have been set back by the COVID-19 pandemic. As I was saying earlier, it's wonderful to see all of you here in person tonight. We're hoping to, and we're committed to staying on track, though, getting back on track. And being able to hold more events like this, which we had been doing before the pandemic hit us. This, of course, is a volunteer organization, and our membership really helps. Your membership dues really help the organization, especially during this time when we haven't been able to do events and do our normal fundraising. So we very much appreciate your support and your donations on that front. This is also, just to point out, this is the only neighborhood association in Concord, officially recognized 501c3 organization. And we work to serve the community, and we do need your continued support. So in the coming year, we're going to be looking to you for your opinions, your advice, what direction you think the organization should go into. This is a community organization, which means all of you. And so we want to decide on what events we might offer or host, and maximize our community outreach. And there's also, I just wanted to mention, a group called Friends of Pennacook that is formed with the goal of holding a Memorial Day parade in Pennacook next year. So that's very exciting, and the PVA certainly looks forward to supporting that effort and any other efforts along that vein. I anticipate that one of our next meetings coming up might be about the Pennacook Branch Library. That issue has sat dormant for a while, but it is percolating now a little bit. The library trustees are going to be meeting shortly to begin discussion about what the future might hold for the branch. And so I think that that might be an opportunity, hopefully, for the community to get involved. I'd love to see that happen. And so the PVA can facilitate a meeting, hopefully coming up soon, where you all can weigh in on that as well, and we can maybe get a report of what the viable options are for the branch. But before that all happens, though, I just wanted to do a quick note to say that in 2 days, December 1, we are live and in person again at Boudreaux Square for the Pennacook tree lighting event, which is going to be great. So we hopefully will have the Pennacook Elementary School chorus there, fingers crossed. So far, will be able to do that. And then fingers double crossed, if we're all good, maybe Santa arrives on the fire truck and gives out candy canes. So be very good, at least till Wednesday. That's all I'm asking, okay? So we don't mess that up. So that's going to be the tree lighting. The lighting of the tree happens at about 6 o'clock, so folks can assemble in Boudreaux Square 5:45 or around that time. So we look forward to seeing all of you there for that event as well. So I just want to take just another quick minute, if I may, to just to read to you the Pennacook Village Association mission statement, which is to involve citizens in enhancing the quality of life, protecting the historic character, and fostering economic vitality in Pennacook Village. And our vision statement is to build community through a voluntary association that connects neighbors, shares neighborhood information, and promotes activities and civic involvement in the village. And that's really why we're all here tonight, to connect and to share information. I also just want to give a shout out to Anna Glover, who I don't think is here tonight. I don't see her anyway, but she is one of our members who has worked on maintaining our web page, pennacook.org, and we are also on Facebook at Pennacook Village Association. So our first order of business, if we can just do that, is to elect our board members, and all dues-paying members can vote. So you just can raise your hand. I'll look for a nomination in a moment. The PVA bylaws say that we can have 9 board members, and big thanks to our current 9 members who have stayed with us. There are 2 terms that are expiring this year, and that's Chris LeBrake and Christine Miller. And so, if I may, I'd like to get a motion from someone to approve Chris LeBrake and Christine Miller as PVA board members, each for 2-year terms. Does anybody want to make that motion? Thank you, Steve Shurtleff. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. And so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. So congratulations to Chris and Chris for another 2-year term. Appreciate that. And now our second order of business is what you're really all here for, not to hear me speak, but to hear our special guest, Matt Walsh. And Matt has been a great friend to Pennacook and Pennacook Village Association for many, many years. He's spoken at, I don't know, I've lost track how many meetings you've actually spoken at, especially the annual meetings. Matt is a terrific guest. He is, as you know, the Concord's Director of Redevelopment, Downtown Services, and Special Projects. And tonight's presentation is about various ongoing projects in Pennacook. And then after that, we can take some questions and hear what's on your mind as well. So with that, let's all welcome Matt Walsh. Matt?
Well, good evening, everybody. It is nice to see you. I think I've been doing this for a little more than 20 years now, and the faces are still here, and a lot of them are the same that have been over here for 20 years, which is great. You don't get that in the community a lot doing the line of work that I do, so it's wonderful that people have been engaged and have continued to stay engaged, and it's a wonderful thing. So thank you for having me back. Let's see if this will actually work now. Oh, maybe not. Oh, there we go. Belated happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you all had a good one. Mine was kind of quiet, although there were only 5 of us. My mother decided to make a 19-pound turkey. So old habits die hard. Also happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate. So this evening is one of the nights. The topics are on the board here. We can talk about whatever you want to. I'm going to go through the presentation, and then we can play Stump the Speaker at the end of it if you want. And we'll see if there's anything else that comes up. But basically, we want to talk about Exit 17, give you some updates about what's happening at Rosemary's Way on Village Street, talk to you about Pennacook Landing, which is at the old tannery site, talk about a riverfront park that's proposed there as well, talk about the Pennacook Branch Library, which sounds like might be a nice setup for your future meeting. I swear Brent and I did not plan that. And again, the tree lighting is this Wednesday, so there you go. So Whitney Road, and I would note that Lori and David Rossio are here in the corner. So if there's questions that come up, we'll try and answer them for you together. So Whitney Road, this is just to orient you, this is I-93, this is Hoyt Road. This is in yellow is 43 acres that Lori and David own right off of Whitney Road. This is the trash energy facility, and the Concord Canterbury town line is right here. So Lori and David have been working diligently on developing this parcel for, I'm going to say, 15 years. They also own other property at Concord Crossing, another vacant property here. They are instrumental in the development of Lakes Region Tent and Events. They own the land where the gas station is at the corner. They don't own the gas station, but they own the land. It's a land lease. And they came to us and said, we have a proposal where we think we can help Pennacook achieve its goal of getting a full-service supermarket in the community and develop other property on this 43 acres that will create jobs and lead to long-term tax base for the community. But they needed help with some of the off-site improvements. And so to move forward here, the proposal that Lori and David have that they're working on right now, it's not really a proposal anymore, it's becoming reality, is to develop the 43 acres here as you see. There is the 80,000 square foot Market Basket supermarket. There's a 22,000 square foot retail tenant that has not yet been announced, although they are building it right now. Has it been announced? All right. So this is some things I know, but I can't say, and then it all gets confusing of what actually we are. Anyway, so Home Goods, if that's what it is, you heard it here, and New Hampshire Liquor and Wine Outlet as well. So that's phase one of their project, and I would note that they've also, there was a Wendy's that was just approved at this site. So, but in order to make this site viable, and really the rest of Whitney Road viable, and even down to eventually Sewell's Falls through the Monitor property, there had to be off-site improvements constructed for transportation purposes. And these have been on the books for a long, long time. And the city had been long advocating to the state of New Hampshire to include these in the state's 10-year plan, and it never rose to that level. So it really stymied efforts to develop this site and really everything around it. So the city and the Rossios entered into a public-private partnership whereby the city has agreed to build what's under construction today. So improvements to Hoyt Road, which include a hybrid two-lane roundabout at the intersection of Boyce, Whitney, and Hoyt. A smaller roundabout at the intersection of what is Merchants Way into Laurie and David's development, Concord Crossing, and Whitney Road, and all the improvements that go along with it. One of the things that made this very challenging is this, so you have three different governments involved here. You have the town of Canterbury, because a portion of the Canterbury, a portion of these improvements are in Canterbury. You have the city of Concord, and then you have the state of New Hampshire, which controls Route 4. It's actually a federal highway. And they are also looking for improvements to the interstate system. We are going to be redoing the on-ramp to 93 South at 17 here because of these improvements. So when you swirl all that together, it makes it very hard for a private developer to do on their own. Forget about the economics, but the getting through the bureaucratic process of dealing with three different governments to make it happen. So this project is now under construction. The City Council approved it in April, the public-private partnership. The Market Basket and liquor store started construction soon after that. And the Wendy's was just approved back in September, if my memory serves correctly. We already talked about how much square footage for the first phase here. About 438 jobs are associated with just the liquor store, the Home Goods, and the Market Basket. It's about $12.1 million of assessed value, which will come to pass in about 2024 when it will all come on to the books. The site's worth about $2.7 million today. It's going to be adding about another $9.4 million. We're anticipating the property taxes will be about $378,000 in the first year. The existing taxes are about $84,500, and $293,500 is what the new taxes will be. There are protections. This is probably a little too in the weeds, but give you a little bit of understanding of how these things work. So under the partnership, Laurie and David have certain responsibilities, as does Market Basket by extension, and the city does. So Laurie and David's obligations were to build phase one of their project. They're achieving that in spades with the construction that's happening now. They are financing all of the city's highway improvements in Canterbury, so there are no city funds being spent on the roadway improvements that are in Canterbury. They're provided land for rights-of-way easements for the highway improvements on Whitney Road. They'll be constructing some sidewalks on Whitney Road south of the new little roundabout. They're also going to be doing some winter maintenance of sidewalks there, and they're going to be taking care of the landscaping inside of the new little roundabout at Concord Crossing and Merchants Way. The city is responsible for designing, permitting, and constructing the entire project, as well as paying for the portion that is in Concord. But we are actually building the portion that's in Canterbury using our contractor, using Laurie and David's money. Short-term protections, so it's all about protecting the taxpayer and making sure that if things go badly, that the city's protected, and by extension our taxpayers are. The short-term protections were, there's something called a performance mortgage that makes sure that the liquor and wine outlet will get built if it somehow fell apart after our closing. That's not a problem at all. The building is there. It's going to be ready for use in January. There's also a corporate guarantee from Market Basket saying that they would have a new grocery store at this location within 2 years, and they're also exceeding that in spades. In the long term, to protect the taxpayers, there's a covenant on the entire 43 acres that says whatever is built there will have to pay full ad valorem taxes. So if the developers sold it to a tax-exempt entity, they would still have to pay the full ad valorem tax just like they were a taxable entity. So that's important for long-term tax growth in Pennacook. And there is a minimum payment guarantee for the liquor store and the market basket parcels for 20 years. That's really designed to cover the debt service that the city's incurring for these improvements as well as the operating costs. That's the liquor store a couple of days before Thanksgiving, actually the weekend before Thanksgiving. It's coming along, it looks great. Solar panels on the roof, by the way, which is very nice. This is the status of the market basket and the home goods from Lori and David's website. We appreciate the photo, but it's coming along very, very nicely. And these are the roadway improvements. This was Tuesday before Thanksgiving. We were laying down pavement for the small roundabout. This is the gas station, the Extra Mart. This is Whitney Road, Concord Crossings over here by the orange truck. And that is in place, and our crews will be working as they can through the winter to try and get this done next summer. Schedule, we've already talked about it a little bit. Again, this really started hitting well, it's been in the works for a long time, but really started moving in April of 21. We received our bids for construction in May. We engaged our contractor in July. However, we couldn't start construction really until September 16th because that's when our final permits came through. It took a long time to get permits from the state of New Hampshire. There were numerous environmental permits that were required and 3 different driveway permits that were required from DOT for this project, and we didn't get those till September, which is hard when the construction season is waning quickly. Early 22 is when the liquor and wine outlet will be open, and this coming summer is when we anticipate the highway improvements will be fully completed, and that will allow the market basket to open. Again, a little bit about the financials. So the total project cost is $4.9 million. On the city side of the house, our share is $4.33 million. You can see how it's made up. This is being funded in large part by tax increment financing. The way that works is we capture the new tax revenue from the new development to pay for the infrastructure improvements, not only the debt service, but the operating costs. Those costs are going to be significant. In the first year, we're anticipating the debt service will be about $360,000. We actually think that's going to come down a little bit because of how the debt will be sold to about $300,000. And we're anticipating our operating costs will be just under $25,000 a year. So call it somewhere between $325,000 to $375,000. And again, Lori and David are paying for the Canterbury share, which is about $575,000. Again, going back to tax increment financing, so we ended up, there was a tax increment finance district created in Pennacook in 2010. It was the 3rd active one in the city. The other one's down by Horseshoe Pond, and the other one's on South Main Street by the Capitol Center for the Arts, where Red River Theater is, the Hotel Concord building. So this is the 3rd one that the city created. It was originally designed to support redevelopment of the former Allied Leather Tannery site, which is right here. We ended up expanding it, which is the hatched area, brought it over to just about 93, which is right here, and encapsulated, or captured, I should say, Lori and David's property at Whitney Road, the incinerator, and some of the other property down on the river. So the district right now is about 243 acres. It sounds large, but it's well under what the statute allows. And you can see some of the financial numbers there, which I won't go into gory detail on, but that's what that is. And with tax increment financing, it's always a good opportunity to explain how it works. So phase 1 of the project is going to be worth about $12.1 million. What happens is 2.7 is the current value of the property before the project started, and that will generate about, call it $85,000 a year in property taxes. Those $85,000 will still flow to the city of Concord, the Merrimack Valley School District, the county, and the state of New Hampshire. The new development value, or the incremental value, again, tax increment finance, so the incremental assessed value created by the development, about $9.4 million, will generate around $293,000, and that will go for, it gets retained by the TIF district to pay down the debt service and the operating costs associated with the highway improvements that we're building to beget the project. This is the current payoff chart for the Pennacook TIF district. It includes this project and a couple of other things. But you can see here the blue line is the working capital, or I'll call it the fund balance in the TIF district itself. It's really what's in its savings account. And the red line is the debt, or the outstanding debt in total for the entire district. So blue line is what's in the bank, red line is what the debt is. You could see that if we can keep the district open until the debt is paid off or until it fulfills its purposes, if that was to happen, it would be about 2044. But if we don't release any of the captured value and we just keep banking it, we will have enough that we could actually terminate the district in around 2036, which is about 14 years from now. And again, that's accomplished by saving these dollars kind of from where we are right now as the savings account for the TIF district ramps over time as debt service goes down. I would note that these lines do not presume any additional development happening in the TIF district. So it doesn't presume the Wendy's happening, for example, that's already been approved and will start construction in the spring. So there are various ways that this could go. The city council could decide to not bank all of that money and terminate the district in 2036. A decision could be made to start releasing the value, which means that savings account line would be more like this and push the sunset date out more to this side. At the same time, they could, if more development happened quickly and Lori and David in the next 2 years filled up their entire property with new development, this line could climb much faster and might allow us to terminate the district sooner than 2036. So I would say this is a conservative projection, realistic conservative projection, but that's basically how the TIF district works to take some of the mystique away from it. And again, the Wendy's has been approved. It's a 2,000 square foot building, and we'd expect construction on that sometime next spring. Moving on to Rosemary's Way. This is Catch Neighborhood Housing's latest development on Village Street. It is due to open this month. In fact, there's a ribbon cutting coming up, I want to say on December 9th. So Catch is the city's in-town affordable housing developer. This project has 6 buildings at it, 42 units. 31 of them are affordable, 11 are market rate. You can see the distribution there of one bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom units. The total investment's about $10.3 million. The way these projects work is they are funded by federal tax credits. In this case, Catch got $800,000 of tax credits, which creates about $7.2 million in equity or cash once they are sold and monetized. The city supported this project by selling the former water tower lot that was at the back of the property to encourage the development of much needed affordable housing in the community. The units are very nice. This is one of the smaller buildings of the 6 that are there. The exterior, they are townhome units, so these are up and down units, they're townhouses. This is what the interior of this particular development looks like. So kitchen, this is actually the living room at the back of a unit, and goes out to have some green space of its own behind it. But very nice, high quality, good construction. Moving on to Pennacook Landing Phase 2. So this is by the Caleb Development Corporation. This is at the old Allied Leather Tannery site. So everybody remembers the Pennacook Mill. And this is what it looked like in 2008. So we're coming up on this now quite a while ago. This is what the new building at the property looks like. And I wanted to take a moment just to say, when we worked with the developer to sell it to them, we encouraged them to do something that was mill-esque in their architecture. So you notice the old mill had 3 stories, this has 3 stories. It has the flat roof, it has the flat roof. It has a center tower, it has a center tower. Granite was a little too expensive, but we tried to, as you can well imagine, but we did try to have them create something of the same size, mass, scale, feel that had been at that property since 1846. So Caleb is based in Swampscott, Massachusetts. The city sold them 2.5 acres of the tannery site. We still have about 1.5 acres left, a little bit more than that. But we sold it to them for $540,000, which was our full asking price, fair market value. Phase 1, which is the building here, was done, opened in October of 2020. It is 34 units. 31 of those units were affordable, so there are 3 market units in that building. 25 of them are 1 bedroom, 9 of them are 2 bedroom. We supported the project actually with all the cleanup that the city did from 2004 until we sold this site in 2019. We also supported it by getting a $500,000 grant from the state of New Hampshire, a community development block grant, which we used to do some on-site grading, and we helped build them part of their sewer system and a few other improvements. Again, all paid for by the state of New Hampshire, not paid for by city taxpayers. Phase 2 was always planned, and it's going to be right next to this building. It's 20 units, 18 of them will be affordable. The state of New Hampshire, New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority had just awarded about $468,000 of tax credits at the beginning of November, so earlier this month. It's going to generate about $3.6 million of equity, which will support their total development cost of about $4.9 million. It's going to start this coming summer. It will take them about 10 months to complete. So just to orient you a little bit, again, solar panels on the roof of this building as well, but this is the yellow square is where phase 2 is going to be built. This is Crescent Street, the Hydro Dam, Canal Street, United Church of Pennacook, Chiefs. So that is in the works, and it's going to be happening starting this coming summer. And again, just a better shot of the building, but hopefully people are pleased with it. We tried to get a building that we thought was handsome and would try to replicate the size and mass that was there at this site for so long. This is what the inside of the building looks like. So this is one of the units, kitchen, living room, bathroom, so you have a sense of what they look like. Again, very nice, quality construction. This one even has granite countertops in it. Canal Street Riverfront Park project. So everybody remembers this from me being here when I was 20 years younger and having more hair. And so this is the 6 acres that was Allied Leather in the city of Concord, and not counting what was in Bosquen over on Commercial Street, or the townhouses that were developed not too long ago in Bosquen just over the line. So just to remember what we started with and what our aspirations were. There's been a lot of planning that went into the Allied Leather site over the years. So in 1986, there was a village plan that was done for Pennacook, which talked about redeveloping Allied Leather someday. I think the mill was still open. I think it went bankrupt in '87. And including a potential public park along the riverfront. So that had always been in the cards since 1986. Fast forward to 2004, the Pennacook Village Charrette in March of 2004 in the basement of the United Church of Pennacook, and I know many of you were here. Many of you, who was here? Raise your hand. Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. 20 years on, actually 16, 17 years on, you're still engaged. That's great. So you all remember this plan. There was a plan to try and rehab the existing mill building. There was a discussion of, well, maybe we should put some green space in a park along the river. And then the plan went forward. And then, not really public, but the city along the way did take a stab at doing some more concepts. This was a different redevelopment plan for the tannery site before we had coal ash soil encapsulated along Canal Street, which Caleb had to deal with but did well, which showed, again, another riverfront park concept. This is Chiefs. This is the old L-shaped building that was on the river that's now gone. This is the hydro dam up here. And then 2015 came along, we did the village master plan. I know a lot of you were involved in that as well. Kind of came up with, we're going to call it the Emerald Necklace for Pennacook Village, which is really a Frederick Law Olmsted famous landscape architect concept in Boston, the Emerald Necklace. And we took it and we applied it to Pennacook because it doesn't have to be in big fancy cities. It can be in small, wonderful villages. And talked about, hey, we have the Tanner Street Park. This is the park that we're talking about by Chiefs and Pennacook Landing. There's city-owned land here by Walnut Street. The condos hadn't been developed yet in Bosquen. Eventually, Rivco will get redeveloped. It has a lot of frontage on the river in Bosquen and in Concord. And of course, there is the Northern Railroad line here, which we all hope that one day will become part of the Merrimack River Greenway Trail. And we said, wouldn't it be wonderful if you can connect all of these things together, not just for Pennacook in the next 5 or 10 years, but the next 50 or 75 years to really encourage walking in the village. So this is how our little park fits into that grand plan. And in 2015, when the city was marketing the tannery site, we developed yet another concept. We actually used this in our marketing literature that brought Caleb to the table to show them how we wanted to keep this property and develop it for a park. And frankly, it's one of the reasons why Caleb liked the site, in addition to its proximity to 93 and it being in the center of downtown and so on and so forth. So today, this is what you have. The medical office building is up here, which was done in 2011 by DEW with Concord Hospital, Pennacook Family Physicians. Pennacook Landing Phase 1, Phase 2 will be right there. And you have this wonderful opportunity for the park. We have about 550 feet of frontage on the river. We bought the land for this park in 2012, actually from George, who owns Chiefs, and have been putting the pieces in place for a long time to get this done. We actually have an agreement with the hydro dam that was done in 2000, actually before we bought the land from Chiefs, to talk about restructuring their easements so we could landscape it as part of a future park. So the pieces have been coming together for a long time. We are in the process right now. The City Council just approved, as part of the budget that got adopted and started on July 1st, $110,000 to design and permit the park. And it's all been paid for by impact fees from new development, so no cost to the taxpayer. And we are in the process right now of selecting a design team that will be involved with the community on how to get this project done. There will be some limitations on what we can do with the property, though. One of the reasons why the city held on to it was, in addition to the riverfront, is there is environmental contamination that's on the property. I don't want that to scare you, because it's nothing to be scared of, but what it really is back in the day, the Yankees who came before us decided to fill in the river and change the shoreline, and they did that by dumping urban fill into the river, including leather, to reshape it to the shoreline that's there today. So as part of our cleanup plan that the state and the EPA approved, we ended up encapsulating that material on site. It's what's beneath the black plastic here with the orange, the yellow warning tape on top of it. And we can still have a park there. People can be there. It's perfectly safe. We just can't put any structures on top of that area. So a good portion of the site is underneath that cap, but we still have the opportunity to do a lot of good stuff there. So the budget, again, $110,000 appropriated by council. Design is, we're getting proposals from design teams on December 10th. We hope to have somebody on board by the probably end of February. We anticipate the construction budget will be about $1.24 million. That's based on one of the old designs from 2015 that we've increased with inflation over the last 5 or 6 years. That number's probably a little bit light, especially with the way inflation is happening right now. But we also need to figure out with the community exactly what you want to have there, because this is going to be your park. So once we design it, we can update the budget number, but that's what we're working with right now. We anticipate part of it will be paid for by tax increment financing. Part of it will come from the parking fund, because that is a public parking lot on Canal Street that desperately needs to be rebuilt. We are hoping to get some grant funds, and there's probably some more development impact fees that will go into this. Again, it's in the tax increment finance district, so the TIF district will pay for the debt and the operating costs on this park. We're anticipating $62,000 in year one. It's going to be about $50,000 a year in debt over 20 years. And the operation and maintenance costs in year one will be about $21,000. This project is in the graph I showed you with the 2 lines of when the TIF, what's left in the TIF's fund balance versus its debt service and when that will pay off. This is in here, and that's the number that is inside the pro forma to drive that and get rid of the graph, as well as what's happening up at exit 17. There is precedent for using TIF funds to build public parks. Eagle Square was a TIF district in 1979. And it did good things for downtown, just like we think this park will do for up here. There are plazas at the School Street parking garage on Main Street that were built with TIF money back in 1983. In fact, this is behind Joe King's and the plazas through there, and those were built by TIF dollars. And these are the plazas that were built on South Main Street at the Hotel Concord building, Red River Theater, this big plaza right there, built by TIF. Little Park at Park down on around the corner. on Pleasant Street Extension was built by TIF, so it has been done before. The schedule is as you see here. We think we're going to really start this in the late winter, so March of 22. We're hoping to be back with you in April for a community forum and a charrette. And what we will do is, like we've done with you before, we want to meet with you, show you some ideas that we have, hear what you want to happen at your park. We want to actually break you up into groups and have you scribble with a professional on plans of what you think should be where and what you want it to look like. Because we want you to be invested in the planning process, because we want the community to really embrace this and use it once it's completed. So we want to make sure we're serving you what you want from us. We're hoping that if everything goes well, that we'd start construction in the spring of 23. It should take one construction season. We should be done hopefully 2 years from now, with punch list in summer of 24. And then lastly, Pennacook Branch Library. So the former police station became a library in 1947. The cells are still in the basement, which I've always thought was a real benefit for unruly children during story time. I don't know if that's true. I thought it's a selling point. It's only been open 3 days a week, about 16 hours. That's before it closed right after COVID began. We haven't reopened it because of it's impossible to do social distancing in there. It doesn't really have an HVAC system that's capable of air handling for that. There was a needs assessment done in 2020, September 2020, by the H.L. Turner Group, who's located here in Concord. They took a look at it for us and came up with about $400,000 of improvements that it needs, which is a lot of money for about 1,400 square feet that we use in that building. I know Todd Fabian, who couldn't be here tonight, he's away for the holiday with his family in Pennsylvania, but has been looking for different options of how to provide library services to Pennacook. I think he's been trying to replicate a model that's worked well for us on the Heights, at the Heights, the new citywide community center, where we have a large program room that's about 1,000 square feet, and they use it for library services part-time, and then David Gill in the recreation department uses it part-time for recreation. So I know he's been looking at trying to find creative ways to do that, but we haven't quite, I don't think he's quite put his finger on how to do that yet, and I know the trustees have been helping him with that. And again, so just in case you don't know, the tree lighting is this Wednesday at 5:45. And with that, it's play Stump the Speaker. So, all right, you're still awake? Yes, hopefully. Okay. Any questions? What would you like to talk about?
With the old mill, what happened to all the granite?
So we did 2 rounds of demolition on it. The first one was in 2004 to strip it back to the original 1846 mill, best we could. And then after it collapsed, the photo I showed you, we came in, we actually crushed it. We ended up crushing the building and using it as backfill instead of hauling it away. And it was an elegant way of dealing with a lot of challenges. So that's what happened to the granite. There's been a little bit saved at the site, not a whole lot of it, but by and large it was crushed and turned into backfill. Yep. Yep. Rick?
The Pennacook Historical Society actually has a pile of some granite rocks that came from the mill.
Yep. Along with other things.
Yes.
I still appreciate your help with moving all that stuff that day. Thank you. And storing it. A lot of sweat labor that day from Rick. Other questions, comments? In the black.
My name is Tracy Brickey, and I am on the Merrimack Valley School District School Board. And we have been asking for a sit-down to talk about possible sharing of the TIF district revenues under RSA 162-A, colon 9, Roman numeral 3. And we asked March 5th that the letter be read into the public testimony on March 8th. According to the minutes, it wasn't read that day. But I don't know.
I mean, we couldn't be there. Nobody from the school board could be there because our meetings are on the same evenings as the city council meetings. I did find mention in the April 12th meeting that the Merrimack Valley School District had asked about meeting. And at the same time, at the April 12th meeting, Alan Kerschlag was there and also commented on it, on the possibility of revenue sharing with the school district. We didn't hear for a very, very, very long time back from the city until May 11th. I was really, 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 and I'll say it one more time, really disappointed that the letter that we received on May 11th, which was 2 months after we had written to the city council, seemed to me as if, well, it didn't answer any questions. It says, I'm responding to your letter dated March 5th concerning amendments to the Pennacook Village Tax Increment Finance District. These amendments pertain to design and construction. I don't need to go into that. We know what the amendments are. Per the city's notice dated February 11th, subsequent to their statutorily required public hearings on March 8th, voted on April 12th to unanimously approve the amendments as submitted, sorry. The documents approved by the city council were previously provided to MVSD as part of the city's February 11th, 2021 notice. The city council did not take any action concerning MVSD's request to negotiate a revenue sharing agreement for the Pennacook Village Tax Increment Finance District. And that's it. That's all we've heard. It's really frustrating for those of us on the school board, and I'm sure all the taxpayers in Pennacook, especially now that the district is going from, what was it, 43 acres to 237, or is it the other way around? I can't remember.
Nope, you've got it. It's about, yep, it's now 243, yep.
So the fact that we haven't had, this is it, May 11th, and the letter even has typos in it. It's like you just didn't care. And it's like the city didn't care about Pennacook, and that's really frustrating to us. So I'm asking you now, is the city going to even respond to the school board and talk about the possibility, especially now that there's almost 250 acres that could be developed. You're right here.
Yep,
It could skyrocket. So
it could.
I don't understand why we've been ignored, and that's why I'm here.
Well, I'm glad you came. A decision to meet with the school district is that of the city council. It's not the city administration's decision. I will.
But I can say that in the April 12th minutes, you did allude to the fact that you didn't, or at least that's what the minutes, I mean, it's hard to know because we couldn't be there, but the minutes seem to say that you advised them not to. Me, I can,
Well, I haven't read the minutes. I can tell you that your letter was provided to the council. So we did get the letter, and it was provided as part of the testimony that the council got from everybody in the community. So that did happen. So the way that TIF works is we create the district, we capture the revenue like I showed you on this slide, right? So we're going to capture all the incremental development, or all the incremental tax value that gets created from new development that happens in here. And all the value that exists today, so all the value with Wheeler Brea that's there today continues to go to all the normal taxing authorities, including the school district. But we do capture the incremental net new assessed value to pay off that debt service and operating cost. And until the district gets financially stable, which will take some time, we tend to be conservative. We want to underpromise and overdeliver. And so what will happen is, over time, as this blue line grows, it will give the city some flexibility on how to handle the money in that, in the yellow area that's in the, basically the fund balance of the TIF district. I can tell you that the way this district's been structured is exactly identical to how the one in downtown is at the Hotel Concord and the one in Horseshoe Pond has been. The one in Horseshoe Pond was created in 1998, and it has become so successful that we actually release about $1 million of revenue out of there every year. 60% of that revenue goes to the Concord School District. The city gets a piece, the county and the state. At some point, this district will be similar to that because it will get built out. Now, we don't know if there's going to be, we know where the development will be. We don't know exactly when it will happen. We hope sooner rather than later. And presuming that that comes in and presuming there aren't any other investments made by the district outside the park that we just talked about, this is how it will pan out. But over time, this blue line, if Wendy's is not in here, so the line's going to be a little further up than it would be here. But you can see that by our fiscal year 2027, things start to climb all the way to 2036. The city council could make the decision to start releasing incremental assessed value and the property tax revenue associated with that, as they do in the Horseshoe Pond district. Or they could alternatively say, nope, we want to bank it and then pay it off, so then all of that revenue gets released after 2036 to everybody. So it can be, you can get a little bit over time, or you can get a lot of it at a certain point and go forward. And that's going to be a decision for future city councils to make. I think, it's purely a decision of the city council if they want to meet with the school district to talk about this. But essentially, for the time being, for the immediate future, without capturing all of that revenue, that new tax revenue being created at Exit 17, we're going to have a hard time making sure that we can actually pay for the improvements, the debt service costs and the operating costs. If we can't pay those, then the taxpayers will pay for them now. Because right now, the taxpayers are held harmless. They're not paying for the improvements, but they're not getting the financial benefit of the improvements right away. It's separate from how it's working for them right now. The TIF district's paying the debt service, the TIF district's paying the operating costs, because the TIF district is capturing the revenue to pay for those things. But I think over time, there will be flexibility that will be created from additional development that happens at Exit 17 and elsewhere in the district. And I think there will be an opportunity to talk about some sort of revenue sharing in the future if the school district and the council want to have that conversation. I don't know if there's anybody else who wants to add to that.
Can I just add that was excellent, Matt, thank you. And thank you for the question, I appreciate that. I think that a couple of points. One is that the project isn't completed yet. So if we really, the city, I don't think would sit down with the school district and have a reasonable conversation because we don't even know what the value is.
They couldn't even sit down to explain this, when Matt could come here and explain this?
Well, I think that, I think you certainly, the school district has an opportunity to, Matt is one of the experts in TIF districts in the whole state. So I'm sure that he would, if you had gotten in touch with him, been willing to have a conversation and talk about it. The decision to...
Did you not hear that we did get in touch?
Yes, you sent the letter. I understand that. You sent the formal letter. And that's fine. What I'm saying is that you've started the process. We understand the school district is interested in having a conversation, but I'm explaining to you now that there's no real reason to have one if we don't know what the actual value of the property is going to be. So that's to come. The other part of it is that without the TIF district, the project wouldn't have happened. So all the additional revenue that Matt pointed out there wouldn't accrue at all. So that's another important consideration when we're talking about the TIF districts and the way it functions. And the third is that if, in fact, the city were to release funds earlier than designed by the TIF district, ultimately what that might mean is that taxpayers would have to pay more for this project. So I don't think the city council would probably be interested in going down a road where ultimately, by releasing funds early, those funds would have to be made up for somehow, and therefore the project would become, the roundabout project, the improvement on the Route 4, would in fact become more expensive. So that's the other important consideration that I think the city, and I'm speaking now with my city council hat on for a moment, that's another important consideration I think the city council will be having. But that doesn't mean to say that the city council or the city itself doesn't want to be wonderful, have a great relationship with the Merrimack Valley School District and discuss the issues and so forth. But just so you know, those are some of the other considerations behind the decision, and if the school district didn't hear formally yet, well, we're all waiting for this project to be done. People are mostly waiting to start to go shopping there, but everyone is waiting for it to be finished, and then we would know what evaluation is. And then, you know, at that point, maybe we could have, there could be a conversation. But those are the other considerations, just so you know.
Can I ask a question, because I'm just confused? All this extra land you're talking about is part of the school? What do you?
None of it's about you.
Okay, so where this just started, and to me, yeah, it's way too premature, because the actual tax rate, right, in Pennacook, 33%, I think, goes toward the school. Am I right? Okay, so this is just, you're looking at the future, the school needs more money. I'm just trying to understand. Okay,
It's all about tax revenue.
yeah.
That's how New Hampshire funds school districts.
Oh, I know. I worked in a separate.
Yes.
Hey, Matt, just a nuance on that. When the city releases, what are they actually releasing? They're releasing assessed value to the tax base?
Correct.
Is that you're the expert on this, so I kind of, if that's a nuance, it's important. They're not really releasing that $1 million.
So what we
Talked
do,
about in the 1999 one, they're releasing assessed value that goes towards the tax base.
correct. So I'll use the example. So the TIF district down at Horseshoe Pond, where the Grapponi Conference Center is, it created $50 million of incremental assessed value, okay, from where it was back when it was created in 1998. The city releases approximately 2/3 of that $50 million, so let's call it $35 million for round numbers. We release the tax revenue, we release that $35 million from the district every year, which creates about $1 million in tax revenue that then sugars down to the city's general fund, the school district, Concord School District in that case, the county, and then the state education tax.
So as they release that, there's less revenue coming back to the TIF district to pay down debt.
That's
But
correct.
presumably your debt is less later in the period as well.
That's correct. So as, you know, as the debt winds down over time, there's additional, so you're still bringing in revenue, your expenses go down, it gives you more fund balance, gives you the opportunity to release money out of that fund balance by releasing assessed value. And that's how it works. And Concord's been doing that for a long, since 2006 in Horseshoe Pond. So the district was created in 1998. We started releasing value in 2006 because Horseshoe Pond blew up much faster than anybody thought it would. It was a wild success that was well beyond anybody's expectations, and it created the flexibility to allow the city to do that. And I'm hopeful that the same thing will happen with this district with Exit 17.
Just one other question on a completely opposite topic. I saw in the picture at the beginning there, they're changing the on-ramp to Exit 17. Can you explain that? Why do I need to go turn right instead of just going straight to get onto the highway?
DOT's road, DOT's rules, okay? So, so this is Route 4, Hoyt Road, and because of the roundabout that's here and people coming through here, the state's always been very uncomfortable about the speeds people can reach on that ramp before they even get close to 93.
That's the idea.
So I don't recommend, I mean, the highway is 65 miles an hour there, you can merge at 90, but it's so the state's been, so basically, even though, and the city protested about this loudly to the state, all the way up to the commissioner's office. And we said, hey, look, this has been like this for 50 years. Why is it on us to fix it? And they said, well, it's our road, and with how the traffic impacts are going to here and the merge are going to happen, we want to clean this up to shorten the on-ramp. So is one of those things that if the city didn't do it, the project wasn't going to get approved, and the rest of it wouldn't be built. So, and that's adding about $750,000 of cost to us. So it's the way it is, but we weren't happy about it either.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes.
I'm just curious if at all, with the whole concept of you're trying to work downtown Concord and the 93 changes that they want to push through, and you want to make sure you have the greenway and things along that with access to the river, how is that going to impact the long-term potentially, or the short-term for that rampway for 93? I mean, let's face it, anything north of Manchester really hasn't been touched as far as 93, and any improvements on the ramps. You know, Concord Monitor, that whole area, we've talked about that for years, about putting an on-ramp onto 93 for that access to that center of the town. And I was just curious, I mean, are we going to be developing this, and then, you know, 5 years down the road when the state decides if they want to do something with the highway from Concord North, that it's going to change that we're going to have to be responsible for adjusting for that as well?
So, good question. My understanding is this, the state's Bow Concord project does not extend really north of the Merrimack River. So when we're talking about the widening project that's going to be happening in Concord, which it'll be interesting to see the timing of that, especially with the infrastructure bill that was approved by Congress, the $1.2 trillion. I'm not aware of any plans, I'll say north of the Merrimack River, 16, exit 16. I'm not aware of any plans to actually, I know there's been discussions about 16 and a half at Sewell's Falls Road. I'm not aware of any official plans for that. So I don't think we're creating competition by developing one node that might be put at a disadvantage if another node was created by a different exit. The only other thing I would note is, you know, exit 4A in Londonderry, which is a real project, and it has been for 40 years. Still can't get built. Maybe that will change with the infrastructure bill, but I'm not aware of any official plans for 16 and a half, so I don't think that's a risk.
Well, it seems any potential exit there at Sewell's Falls off of Mountain Road, since that land's being developed now in the houses, that's a moot point.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody ever talked about it coming off of it, only going onto it, going southbound. I think for a long time that was the proposal, if I remember correctly.
I've heard of different ideas. I've heard of a full diamond, you know, all directions. I've heard of the exit, the Northfield exit, exit 18, which is a partial, you can get on, you can get off, you can get on, but you can't go north. So there are different concepts that were floated at one time, but I'm not aware of anything that will be there. And I think what will happen is in the long term, there's a plan to extend, one of the reasons, well, since we're back on this, so this roundabout, as well as the small roundabout, were all designed on the anticipation that Whitney Road will be extended all the way to Sewell's Falls. And so therefore, by doing that, you get that area of the city better access to the interstate, which would in turn negate the need for a 16 and a half. I think that's how the state would look at it. But this project, we actually put the extra roundabout in at this point because we don't know if Whitney Road extension will happen in the next 5 years or the next 25 years, but we wanted to be teed up for it, and all of our modeling accounted for that. Other questions in the back? Terry.
Is the site plan that you have up there something that was approved by, some committee of the city of Concord? And how many buildings are possible to be developed on that site?
So this is the master development plan. I'll start answering and I'll give it over to Lori and David. So this is the master development plan that was approved by the city planning board. So what's being built now is what's in the red outline, and the Wendy's is right down here at the corner of the small roundabout. This plan's been it's been well thought out, but I think it will get massaged over time as individual users sign on. Lori and David are getting good interest, but if this building might not be that square, it might be more rectangular, or it might be moved a little bit this way or a little bit that way. But I think it's a fair representation of the build out of the property. Lori, David, it's your property, you tell us.
Matt, I think you're about right. That concept plan is a little out of date. It's been tweaked a little bit since that time. But roughly that amount of buildings is about 8
outside of the Home Goods and Market Basket building. And then the little yellow building in the far right corner is an industrial potential, because part of the land is still zoned industrial.
Other questions?
Is it all gonna be businesses, or is some of it gonna be mixed use, like businesses with housing? I've seen that more and more.
Yeah, and a lot of times what the monitor has reported, we've divided the land into 5 land condominiums. So every time the word condominiums gets thrown around, they say there's housing. So there's no housing on the site. And that's really by our design, by our choice. The city does like to have mixed-use developments. This is not a location we thought would be appropriate for that. So we're not putting any residential component to the site. It's all services is what we're really trying for, is things that this area doesn't already have, at least not in close proximity. It's retail, it's restaurants, and it's services like a bank, medical uses. It's that kind of mixture.
Like a drugstore?
There's no plans for a drugstore at this time.
I don't wanna have to leave that.
So there is a drugstore next door. So there's certain uses of Pennacook, there's certainly small uses in Pennacook too that we are also trying to avoid. As you probably understand with COVID, everybody wants a drive-up window. And you can't have drive-up windows in Pennacook anywhere. I believe it's not even allowed in Pennacook. So we are seeking out a lot of folks who need no drive-up window. Unfortunately, that eats up a lot of land. So there's a balance to strike with drive-ups. The banks always want a drive-up window, and we'll have a bank that has a drive-up window. So I just wanted to mention that we do have a Facebook page, so maybe Matt's not on Facebook, but I think a lot of you are, and that's why probably 80% of this room had already heard that Home Goods is coming, and because it's spread on Facebook like wildfire. So Matt, you got to get on Facebook.
I always question what's on Facebook, so I'm glad that you told me.
And it even shows you a roundabout, the little mini roundabout is open, and people are spinning around it now, and you can go on our page and see that in operation. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
I wanted to kind of go back to the impact on schools and just with Rosemary's Way and the landing phase 2 opening up, what do we kind of project family-wise, or the initial impact kind of on the classroom? Is that something that Pennacook is going to have to expand their building to accommodate for any of this? Will there be any money coming our way if we have to do those expansions?
So my understanding with Pennacook Landing Phase 1 is there are 3 children that live there. That's the number that I have. And so you hear 3 children, we assume those are 3 new children. I can't tell you whether they are or not. They might have already been in the district and just simply moved. So that's part 1. The second phase of Pennacook Landing is it's 20 units. It's going to be a very similar mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms, so it's going to be predominantly 1. So I don't think you're going to see that many more children. So if the first building, which has 34 units, created 3 children, proportionately, you would look for 1 or 2 maybe with the second at the most. Catch's Rosemary's Way project does have there are 9 3-bedroom units there, and there are a few more 2-bedroom units. It was built as family housing. I haven't seen a projection of children that will be there. I will say that given, obviously it's intended for family housing, so there will be some children that are there. I don't think it's going to be overwhelming to the point that the school district's going to have to think about adding on or doing something like that. It all depends on, those kids could already be in the district and already going to the schools. It could be, you don't know how those kids are going to sugar in from grade 1 to grade 12. They're not all going to be in one cohort. So I don't expect that there will be a significant impact on the school district, personally. Other questions? Comments? Stump the speaker.
No. Good evening. I'm Richard Berryman. I'm the current president president of the Capital City Rotary Club, and I just want to let you know that we have moved our meeting place to Pennacook. There's some other members of our club are here, Mike Dunn, Mike Manning, and Larry Phillips. Over the last 10 years or so, about 85% of our Rotary Club projects have been in Pennacook, so we felt that this was appropriate. The school system was wonderful enough to give us the basement of the old Walker School to meet in every week. So we're happy to be here. We plan on attending Wednesday night, and unless there are some severe objections, we're going to give away hot cider.
Okay. Anything else that's on anybody's mind about Pennacook? Going once, going twice. Yes, Wendy.
So I'm not gonna ask you about the library, but I am gonna ask you about between the cemetery and Rosemary's Way, are there any plans for any kind of fencing or anything so that the cemetery does not become a playground? And I didn't word that right, but you know what I mean.
No, I understand. I understand what you're asking. I honestly don't know the answer to the question. Is there?
Is there a stockade fence there?
Yeah, like 6 or 8 foot high fencing that you have down there. It's only part.
Oh, but there is okay, I didn't see it. Okay, thank you. Never mind.
But there's not enough. Right. Jump right over the
They'll keep the residents of the cemetery where they belong. Don't worry, Wendy. Any other questions? If you're interested in TIF districts, I would be remiss in saying this. So there is a committee. The committee needs members. You need to be in the district or near it. You can get in touch with me if you want more information on that. But right now, I think Wendy and Terry are the only ones who are still left, and we need to repopulate the committee. So, yeah, and it's not a big lift, and all of you know more about tax increment financing than a lot of people do in town. So, if you're interested, let me know.
Is there a lot of parking in that Hatch neighborhood?
Yeah. There's two spaces per unit, I believe.
Oh, cool.
Yep. There's.
I know what the, like, if there's a bus, more buses or anything?
Well, it's there's a bus stop. It's actually right off the screen here. The road widens out, and there's one on each side of the road. But they did add a bus stop or formalize the bus stop right here at the driveway. Yep.
Speaking of buses, is there a plan to bring the bus to the grocery store, the liquor store in the near future?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. We've been having conversations with Concord Area Transit on how to exactly do that, but our expectation is that the bus will go to the development. Yeah.
Will it wait outside?
Lori and David and I could talk to you for hours about the fabled bus stop at this particular development, but we won't do that. But suffice to say, we anticipate that Concord Area Transit will serve it.
Pat, I mentioned though that we've set aside, David Rossi here, by the way, we've set aside a portion of our development to allow for a bus stop.
Yep.
So there's definitely a space and we're building it. So it's not as if that has to come later.
Yeah, it's part of the plan. In fact, I'll show you where, and it is right dead center in the site, right behind this, right there in the center. That's where it would be.
You have to walk all the way from the Market Basket door to there?
If you talk to, if you talk to Kat, we anticipate that they'll bring you to the front of the grocery store. But Lori and David have built the bus stop. It may not be used because Kat might provide more direct service, but it's going to be there. So, yep. You could, but it's multimodal. Joking aside, multimodal's been important on this one. It's it's the council wanted to make sure there were sidewalks on Route 4. We wanted to make sure that people could get there. It's important not only for shoppers and people seeking services, but people working here. We want to make sure that people can get there. And then I think over time, once the Merrimack River Greenway Trail gets developed someday, I think you'll see people being able to go right across the railroad tracks up by Hannah Dustin, short walk on the sidewalk here to get in. But there will be bus service.
with the roundabouts, like the one that's farther up towards Boston, who's responsible for taking care of it? Is that the state?
No. So I'm not, this is,
The reason I ask is because my wife and I have been taking care of exit 16 roundabout for about 3 years.
thank you.
We're not getting any help at all. I've even requested that they bring some new mulch and things like that. We weed the thing all summer long. We don't seem to get any help. So who's responsible?
So the answer to this is, so Lori and David, their condominium association for this project will be responsible for this one. The city has, when you do a project on a state highway, the state, in addition to telling you that you will fix their on-ramp, will also tell you that they're not going to maintain anything other than they'll plow it. So up here, the city is taking care of the landscaping in the roundabout. We are taking care of the new lights. We are taking care of, there's a pedestrian beacon that will be here to help people get across the roundabout when there are pedestrians. We're taking care of that. We're taking care of the sidewalks that are on Route 4. We will be plowing those. The state of New Hampshire will not be. So, so the city will be taking care of all of that. Now, the roundabout you take care of is actually owned by the city. So there's an irony here. But you know, this particular roundabout, Lori and David's condominium association takes care of that one. The city, by agreement with the state of New Hampshire, will take care of that one.
So who was supposed to take care of the one up towards Boston where, you know, where the
So that one is actually, it's,
I can answer that.
Oh, good.
There is a garden committee that's been formed by the Agricultural Commission in Mosswood, and they are the ones who have been doing all the work out there.
Well, that's great because when they first built it, it
Water
grew up, it
precinct is
became a
putting
mess.
water to get it out to the roundabout.
yeah, I mean, DOT.
Thank you.
DOT is a funny thing. They're great at building things. They don't like maintaining them. So the roundabout up there, the sidewalk that's by that roundabout that just ends on High Street isn't there because DOT was demanding Bosquen plow it and maintain it. And Bosquen said, we don't want to do that. So we now have a gap in a regional sidewalk network, which is very important now that this has come along because of how the state addresses policy for, nope, we don't want to maintain stuff. We only build it. We mow grass and that's it. So, sorry about griping for the state. Wendy.
So in looking at all this, I really appreciated all the hoops that you're jumping through, all the partnerships that you are creating, but I truly think that if you could bring the message back to whoever needs to hear it, that the partnership with the school system is really important.
I
I know you know that, but whoever doesn't know that needs to be told that, in my opinion.
understood, and there are 2 other city councils who are here tonight that also have heard that in addition to me. Yep.
Because that to me is a really valuable partnership between the city of Concord and the village of Hutchinson. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
I had a question in regard to the park, the Canal Street Park.
Yeah.
With that, you had talked about developing it, having the charrettes to get a feel for what people want and everything. But if you can't dig anything there, you can't build anything there, isn't it really limited as to what our options are for the potential for that?
So-
When it actually comes to fruition?
Nope, that's a fair question. So the area that we can't really build in is kind of right here underneath the road. And so we can build here, we can build here, we can do things along the shoreline. Building
You can walk on that space.
you
right?
absolutely can. So the only thing is there's going to have to be some sort of a field in the middle of the park. It could be that. If that's what the community wants. But we actually wanted, it's not a bad thing because we wanted a large turf area for some kind of gathering. So if there's some kind of event that Pennacook wants to do in the future, or if you want to move a current event to here, that's not necessarily the end of the world by any means. But the cap is right in there.
Okay.
Yep.
So would there have that capacity to put like picnic tables and,
Yep.
you know, seating there, things along that line?
Yep.
Lightweight things?
There's, yes, so, you know, we have a list of things that we've kind of talked about at the staff level, but we want to see what the community thinks about them. One of them is opportunities for outdoor dining. Do we want to have the ability to put a kayak in the water here and you can use that part of the river? Recognizing there's a hydro dam here. Bill's in the back of the room going, no, no. But you know, but if you've, you're all familiar with Tilton, it's 15 minutes up the road. Are you familiar with the riverfront park that Tilton did in downtown Tilton 10 years ago or so? Beautiful, very similar. It's on the Winnipesaukee River. It's right next to a hydro dam. It's about a similar sized piece of property. And that's kind of what we've been looking at for inspiration. But you know, we've talked about pavilion. Do we want to have the ability to have a large pavilion? Do we want, you know, the opportunity for chiefs to have outdoor seating in the park for their restaurant, just like you would in downtown Concord? Do you know, various things like that. Do we want a tot lot here? Do you want a playground here? Do you want a dog park here? A whole bunch of different things. So that's why we need to talk to you in the spring, late winter, to find out what you all want to see here.
So what is you have the dotted line for the park.
Yep.
What's that brown space that's in between the hydro plant and the development for the apartment building?
Right here?
Yeah.
So that is actually, this parking lot will get expanded a little bit like this once this building gets built. So when you see that going up. But this is actually, it's part of, there's a long swale system. You see these kind of T-shaped, a J-shape there and a T-shape here. The parking lot actually runs off into a long treatment swale that treats the contaminants from the parking lot before it dumps into a drain that's here that the city actually built a long time ago, that I did, that runs across the hydro dam's property and into the river. So it's a treatment swale, stormwater treatment swale. Yep, yep. Innovative stormwater, you just don't put it in the catch basin anymore. Anything else? Yes, Terry.
Along the river, would it be required to have a fence there because there is a drop off into the river and you have the hydro dam there?
So yes, we have an agreement with Briar Hydro, who has been very cooperative and wonderful to work with over the years. And our agreement with them talks about a 6-foot fence between their pump house that's here and basically the fence that's at the back of the Pennacook landing site. There's a chain link fence there now. This area, so basically between the buoy line to here, we're trying to keep that as safe. We're trying to keep everything safe, but we want to keep extra precaution there. The rest of the site, we have more opportunity for how we want to use the waterfront and how we can encourage a robust connection, pedestrian connection to the riverfront there. But we have agreements actually, you know, everything's simple and everything's complicated. We have agreements with the hydro dam that need to be honored for the park. We have agreements with chiefs and agreements with the building next door, the plum-colored apartment building, that all have to be honored because of, you know, the deals that had to be done to buy property or trade property to make the park possible. Which I'll go into gory detail with all of you about 4 months from now. Maybe not that gory. Anything else? Questions? It's about 8 o'clock, so you've been here for an hour and a half. I don't know. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. That was wonderful, as always. We appreciate that. And I also wanted to thank the Mayor Boulay is in the back. Thank you for attending as well. Thank you, Matt. And also to the members of the Rotary, thank you so much for your support. The PVA really welcomes that. We look forward to seeing you and your cider in a couple days. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And also be on the lookout for a story which just came out, speaking of the partnership between the city and the school district on the revitalization of the cupola and bell tower on the Pioneer Engine House, the historic engine house on Washington Street. So that was a wonderful project that the school district had budgeted, and they're being great stewards of that property, which is really appreciated, and the Pennacook Historical Society was involved in that as well. So anyway, folks, thank you so much for attending. I'm sure we'll be seeing you again soon, and all of you have a wonderful holiday season as well. Thank you so much.